proud to say this, right? That it took me 7 years
Okay.
instead of 4 years to complete my bachelor's degree.
Wow. Hey, this is Abdul Ahmed, also known as AKA from the Intense Show. Today we have a very amazing guest. I really admire and look at this guest over here because he has been into very different zones of IT businesses. When you talk about IT businesses, it's a huge broad spectrum with reference to different AI, different implementation of the technology and stuff, and not only limited to his experience is not only limited to United States, but it's more from a global perspective also. So looking forward to basically talk to him. Roll the intro.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Feroz. So I think I just wanted to ask basically, who is Feroz?
Feroz is this guy who considers himself as a global citizen.
Okay.
Growing up, I had the opportunity to live in different parts of the world.
Interesting.
Even though I was born in Karachi, Pakistan, 6 months after I was born, we moved to Bangladesh, and from there we moved to Dubai and other parts. And now I've been here in Chicago for about 34 years.
Wow.
And then the last 4 years, I've been in Jamaica. So who is Feroz? I think I'm a global citizen. I look at the entire globe as our place in this universe. So I don't necessarily believe in geographical boundaries. I don't believe in the different colors and the distinguishing them for what they bring to this world,
Very nice.
rather than to be discriminating based on color, religion, and other facts. Yeah, so throughout my whole life, I have been more of a people person,
Mm-hmm.
and while we are here to do some good business, but that good
There's
business
always an
has to
association of a social cause behind it.
cause behind it. Yeah.
So now we know what does Mr. Feroz likes? What is Mr. Feroz passionate about?
Well, I'm passionate about building people's lives, helping people improve their life.
Very nice.
Throughout my whole, known career, which is about 23 years, I have helped mentor a lot of different people, from, just from education perspective or vocational training. So I think I kind of see myself as a person who is out there to help people improve their life. And
Definitely,
in
I
doing
think I
so,
just want to basically share that that endorse your statement by the fact that you have been my mentor also. Me coming into the space of technology, it was just because of your inspiration, the love and the passion which you shared of the technology and what can basically bring, what changes will it bring out in the world. Of course, that interaction happened like 20 years back, but yet in today's day and age also is completely very valid. The way are things kind of expanding right now. So just wanted to put my input on that part over here.
yeah, definitely. And when you talk about technology, I think technology has been part of my life since I was 17 years old. I started off with, just some friends who wanted to hang out at a computer lab in Karachi, and then learning BASIC and COBOL, and then the whole
COBOL.
trajectory went from
I
there.
heard this word after a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Interestingly, yeah, I was a COBOL programmer, and I fell in love with coding at that time when I was learning COBOL,
Very nice.
and that was the reason why I came to United States to pursue a computer science degree. So I think technology is something in my DNA. I live and breathe every single day. I keep my focus on what's happening in the world and how technology is evolving.
Very nice, very nice. I think let's talk about a little, because as you mentioned in the beginning that your exposure has been in different parts of the place, from Bangladesh to from Dubai to United States. So if you just kind of basically fast forward, and see, okay, what has your experience been like once you came to United States? I think it's almost been like 30 years. How many years you have been here?
34 years.
34 years. Once you came to United States, so how some of the I would say not challenges, I would say some of the more opportunities, or like what did you go through, how was the phase during that time, and what are some of the lessons learned during that specific phase, the beginning phase?
Yeah, in the beginning, I think, coming in as a foreign student
Mm-hmm.
from a family that relatively did not have money,
Hmm.
and then, getting enrolled in a private institution, DePaul University,
That's an expensive
paying
one.
those fees. Yeah, that was challenging. And I'm proud to say this,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it took me 7 years
Okay.
instead of 4 years to complete my bachelor's degree. And
Wow.
I say
Wow.
I'm proud because
That's
um,
3 years, a gap of 3 years.
3 years, I had to work my rear off
You don't
to
want to use the
pay.
other word? That's okay. We get it.
Yeah, in order to make that tuition fee, right?
Hmm.
So that was
But it
challenging.
wasn't that expensive that time, right? I mean, the way it's
For
expensive
that
right now.
time,
Yeah.
say, so it's the value of the dollar, right? And so for that time, even
Hmm.
though it may have cost us, 15,000 US dollars, that same amount of money back then was still the
Huge
same.
amount of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
what drive do you? So I'm just interesting though because I know from a personal experience also that when you go through some kind of hard phases, just give up. So what made you stick to to stretch all the way for the 7 years and you I get to this end thing, then get my bachelor's. So what was the motive behind it? Like what was the passion? What was making you run?
see, I wanted to do something big.
Hmm.
I wanted to be able to make an impact, my impact,
Hmm.
on this world.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And technology was how I saw I
Hmm.
would be able to make that impact, right?
Hmm.
And that is also the reason why right after graduation, I had the opportunity to work at Motorola. So I had an offer with Motorola, and I had
Very
an offer
nice.
with Baxter Healthcare.
Very nice.
And I chose Baxter Healthcare because I felt like I could make a human impact
Interesting.
through technology.
Interesting.
And so I think that was my driver all along, where, I wanted to make that impact, a human impact.
Hmm.
And getting my degree was that first step. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So because again, I think even though you may don't know that, but I think you have been the source of inspiration for many people. Because just the fact that, like, okay, even if you are struggling through the financial or whatever situation might be, but the drive, what drove you towards, that has always been an inspiration, especially for everyone, especially for me also over there. So I think moving forward, right, as you mentioned, right, so you picked, with Baxter and kind of, because something which needs to make impact, and technology is still a thing which kind of makes a huge impact in whatever industry you are, stuff like that. So how was your experience, working into the diving into the zone of the corporate world, of Baxter, and giving your time over there? And I know that you have different phases and stuff like, but how was that experience, and what were some of the things, what I would say you will say that you really kind of nailed it down?
Yeah, so my experience. So here's the thing. I obviously coming into corporate America was
Hmm.
brand new after
And that's a big
graduation.
thing, people
Yeah,
people look for like working in a corporate, corporate-ish world, that also in America.
yeah,
That's a big thing,
Fortune
especially
500
for
company.
people who are coming from out there. So
Yeah,
of course, so how was that, I mean?
yeah. I mean, it was. I will tell you, I couldn't make the difference between being in a corporate world,
Uh-huh.
a Fortune 500 company, and my own company. I was doing my job as if I was running my company, my own
Hmm.
little space
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
inside this larger corporation, as
Hmm.
if I was running my own business. And I think that is one of the reasons why I kind of thrived. A lot of people these days take a job for, I'm going to go 9 to 5 and see what I can do and come back. But the passion is not there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, this was just, I guess, just me, I don't know, my naive thinking that I took my job very seriously. And,
And why was that? I mean, again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud because a typical person who works in a corporate environment, right? So they're like, okay, they know what they're getting, what perks are they getting out there, and they're 9 to 5, over there, get it done. But I mean, if you are giving your you're putting extra into it, so what was the motive behind it?
I think one of them, once again, could be uh, derived from the fact that I
Hmm.
wanted to make a difference,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I wanted to showcase that through technology and the work that I do, it would mean something for people. It would be
Interesting.
meaningful for people. So that could be one of it. The other thing is, I think my own personality as well. Whatever I take on, I take on 100%.
Soul, heart,
Yeah,
everything into it.
I put everything into it, right?
That's hard. That's hard to.
And so this may be part of personality as well. But yeah, this is also the reason why I grew in my corporate career path. Lots of accolades and awards and stuff because
Very nice.
obviously my managers, my directors loved what I brought to the table, and I think that fed into my desire to do more.
Wow. Makes sense.
I think
Makes sense.
so that it started off with just trying to do something for the greater good through technology, but then the awards and the accolades and the recognition that came along with it just gave me that extra boost, that extra drive.
Very nice. Very nice. So again, I think that. So I think. So the journey with the Baxter, and where were you after the Baxter? Where
So after
did you?
Baxter, I went to Abbott Labs.
Okay.
And I think Abbott Labs is also a great story to tell because that's where I think I kind of peaked at my corporate career.
Mm.
And
Can you define what do you mean by you peaked at your corporate?
so at Abbott, I was a software development manager, application development manager, leading software development teams that were responsible for scientific software. Right? So we're working very closely with the scientists. And once again, fulfilling my
Interesting.
my need to make a difference in people's lives. But then, there were some unique opportunities, and one of the ones I will highlight. This is where social media had just come out.
That was way back when.
I want to say probably in the late 90s and early 2000.
Okay. Okay.
And Facebook had emerged as one of the tools, and there were some other online tools out there as well. Some of them are no longer.
Yes. I mean, I'm just trying to recall some of the interesting
Yeah.
things. Yeah. They were very prominent during the time.
Yeah.
But not anymore.
Well, Facebook was one where I saw a different opportunity where I was able to create a similar type of a networking tool for the 7,000 scientists in Abbott Labs. And what happened out of that is,
And those are all Abbott team members itself.
7,000 scientists that were spread across the globe
Wow.
in different
Wow.
Abbott facilities, right? All under R&D, all doing different type of research, and they all had their own fair share of challenges. I still recall one time where one of the scientists had a challenge where they would try to put their formula into a test tube and it would crystallize. And they couldn't figure out how what they needed to do in order to make sure that it doesn't become crystals. And there was another part of Abbott where there's deep expertise on how to manage crystallization,
Interesting.
but they had never
Interesting.
met. And so all of a sudden, after putting this social networking system, we called it scientific networking, because back then
Was that kind of a homegrown platform?
yeah, homegrown platform.
Okay. Okay.
And it was an ideation based on ideation. So people would put in their challenges, and when I said people, it'd be the scientists putting in the challenges they were facing, and other scientists from around the world would be able to give them advice on how to overcome them, or in some cases say, hey, we have this deep expertise and we can help you with that. Now, something like this would never happen systematically before the system was put in place. It would just be happenstance that you would be at a conference and happen to be in front of somebody and talk about something, and maybe there would be a spark, right? After putting the system in, now this
Now
was
that collaboration
systematic,
is happening.
more systematically, right?
Makes sense.
So I think, that was going back to, some of the opportunities, and, I've had that type of an opportunity. I've had a few other opportunities to make a significant impact using technology.
Very nice, very nice. So I think now it's a very good transition for the discussion about uh, in the past 10 years, I would say, to be very give and take, 10 years, the technology has changed drastically. Prior to that one, I would still say, that, the evolution of technology was there, but it wasn't at the pace which it's right now. With smartphones becoming like a normal thing, different apps, mobile apps, and then different kinds of, transactions and stuff like the crypto, bitcoins, and all the stuff out there. And then now we see all this kind of AI things since last year. So what do you feel like? I mean, this it has kind of I think that majority of there's a huge fear out there, especially things were always kind of, people were always already fearful with the fact that things are coming in, and now with the AI, it's getting even more. A lot of people are concerned. A lot of people are afraid. So I just like to take a step back and just understand a little bit from your perspective. What is AI actually? What do you like? How do you see it as AI?
Yeah, sure. I'll address that in just a second. I think one of the things that you mentioned is uh, fear,
Hmm.
and it's the fear of change.
That is
Okay,
true.
and
Yes.
it may manifest itself in various different ways. But I can tell you that I'm pretty sure when we were living in caves,
Hmm.
and someone said, "Hey, instead of living in this cave, I'm gonna build a home outside," and there was some fear,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I think fear and evolution kind of go hand in hand.
Interesting.
And there was fear when social media came out,
Right.
right? Back then, the fear was that it would be misused, right?
Hmm.
Most corporations kind of said, we're not going to have social media in our company
Just because of the fear element.
just because of fear. Fear also because, hey, now you're going to have all of these voices that can unite, right? And create some trouble for larger corporations.
Or
There was,
trouble to their own motives.
right? There was fear that somebody could leak information
which
from
is
a
more
company,
which is more proprietary to their.
but it is proprietary, and then all of a sudden the world will know, right? So the fear has always been there. But what has happened is, at least what I've seen in my lifespan, is that any new thing that comes about, there's
Mhm.
initially just pushback because of fear.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
What are some of the bad things that can happen?
True.
And then we overcome it.
No, 100%. No, I agree on this statement 100%. Like as you mentioned about the social media, about, the evolution, about how we were using the phones and smartphone games in. I think that the time frame was like, it took
It
some
took some
time.
time.
It took some time. But AI is a complete new beast by all itself. So,
And it's because, look, what was
and
happening
it's
is
like it's coming in
really, really
with it's
fast.
really really fast. And again, we would like to go back to the conversation, what is AI, but I'm just trying to make a point over here is that that's before even you understand what the fear looks like, before you understand, okay, what changes you need to make, AI is swiping up.
Yep. And it's going to get even faster. Let me tell you this, right? What has happened is the pace at which the computers compute
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
has significantly become faster, right?
Right, right.
And it's not stopping. Now we're talking quantum computing, right?
Hmm.
And quantum computing is going to even speed it up a little bit, quite a bit. And what is AI? I think AI has always been around, right? We just never thought of it that way. Because when we pushed 2 plus 2 on a
Mm-hmm.
calculator
Mm-hmm.
and it gave us 4, we programmed it. That calculator learned,
Right.
maybe it wasn't as we call it today, artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
but there was some intelligence because the calculator knew that it was a 4,
Interesting.
right? So we've had this for a long time. The difference is now, because of the compute power
Mm-hmm.
and the amount of data that can be held
Hmm. Hmm.
in various different formats,
Hmm.
database or structured, unstructured data, however you want to call it, right? Data lakes. The amount of data that is there,
Hmm.
right? We can do, the machines can learn, right?
Wow. Yes.
And that's what AI is. We're still telling the machine what to learn. We can still put parameters around what it should not learn.
Okay.
Right? Now, bad things may still happen. That happens everywhere.
True.
Right?
True.
Every technology, right, that is out there, there is some bad implementation of it. Yeah, so there will be people who are, not looking for the general public interest. They're looking for their own interest. And they are going to program AI with things that they shouldn't allow it to. But this is where our, government regulations come in to kind of put in the boundaries of what you should and should not allow in AI models, right? We will evolve. Yeah, initially, maybe there will be some gaps, but as time goes on, and it'll not take another 10 years, it'll be like, very fast because the technology is moving faster.
True.
We will plug those holes, right?
True. I would say, I know you are saying it with super confident, but I think for majority of the people, it's still a huge fear.
Yeah.
It's a huge fear, especially the individuals, who are running a traditional business and stuff like that, so it just becomes very scary for them because all of a sudden now they will have to either, re-optimize their expectations of what kind of, business the revenue will generate, what the revenue will generate, or they have to go with a different route over there.
Look, there's going to be more good that comes than bad, for sure. This is how the world has been able to sustain itself. When we talk about any kind of technology, take alternate energies as just for the sake of the example, right? Solar panels came out initially; they were not as efficient, right? People were thinking about, hey, what's going to happen? It's going to create more junk, right? After its life for the solar panels. But we've come up with some creative ways, and now look where we are at. We've made it much more efficient, right?
True.
There was
100%.
always that fear. Some people probably were fearing, hey, if solar takes off, what will happen to our fuel business, fossil fuel business? What will happen to our gas stations? What will happen to those tankers that are shipping oil from all over the world, right? And those middlemen who will lose their jobs
As
because
the majority of the chunk, yeah.
Yeah, and so the fear will always be there, right? But I think what happens is, as I used the example of, when we were in our caves, when we were living in our caves and we wanted to venture out, right? There was that fear. And that fear is the same fear today with AI.
100%. I think it's very interesting because I think even if you flashback 20 years or 15 years, technology was not, I would say it was still an optional, whereby, okay, if you don't know technology, you can still survive, you can still exist. But I think especially right now, if you don't, I think you were mentioning in earlier conversation that if you're not, very good with technology, don't understand, so basically it will become hard even to survive.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. In fact, it is today. Abdul, it's not in the future. It is today.
No, but my question to you is that if that is the case, right? Then the question I was trying to ask you, if that is the case, that become hard to survive. What advice, what suggestion would you have for general people out there who are not very, I would say, tech savvy, but at the same time, they would like to basically, jump on that, the process. But how would they survive that? How would they do that?
We got to look at technology as an opportunity. First and foremost,
okay.
Technology as an opportunity. If I were to start a business, let's say in Turkey, and the spoken language is Turkish, in order for me to survive there, I would have to learn how
100%.
to speak
Turkish.
Yeah. Right? If I saw an opportunity in Turkish and I went down that path, I wouldn't be able to survive
if you don't
if
have
I
to
don't
speak
know Turkish.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
And so it's the same thing here. If I have a business, I have to learn the minimum technology that is required in order to survive first. And then to thrive, you got to learn a little bit more. Right?
That's a lot of, I would say, A lot of things on the shoulders of an
If you think about it,
individual.
right, even the corner shop, store,
Look,
grocery store.
what I would say is that, look, people who have a very intense background about technology, like you can comfortably say the statement, because you have been technology, you have, lived and breathed technology all your life, and so do I. But an individual who has not that level of interaction, with technology, they don't know how the basics of, it will become. It's a fear. It's a fear element there.
They have to learn. That's the thing. Just like you and I learned how to speak English fluently.
True.
We had to. Otherwise, we
There's no
couldn't.
options here. Yeah.
Yeah, in United States of America, you can't survive unless you know how to speak English,
Very
right?
true.
We can't do any business without knowing how to speak English. So technology is no different. And the example I was going to give you is even the corner shop, grocery shop today will need some sort of inventory management. We'll need some sort of bookkeeping, payroll, accounts receivable.
True.
Right?
True.
Now, if you're going to use the old traditional method where you're going to have this binder and you're going to write down each transaction that is happening and, do your inventory.
But that is satisfying. You know that, right?
I don't know about it, man. It'd be a lot of work.
It feels like you're doing something.
It just feels like a lot of work, right? Whereas, when you have the
reason why,
barcode.
because, I have tried all my effort, to teach my dad how to use Excel sheet. He's not giving up. He's not doing that. He wants to keep on that like a big ledger with the debit and credit and the balance on the side, and then he creates his own balance sheet and trial balance.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, right? It's just that, is it as efficient, right, as putting QuickBooks or some other system in place?
True.
Right? QuickBooks, you connect that with your bank account and your transaction is already, in your journal entries, right?
Yep.
And so, because of the pace, once again, I'm going to go back to the pace. You alluded to that. Everything is happening faster and faster and faster.
Very fast,
right?
yeah.
We have to evolve our business to be more efficient and faster. And you can only do so if you implement technology.
And if you have that technology to disposal, yes.
Yeah, you can't, this day and age, use a paper-based journal and say, hey, I'm going to reduce my payroll processing time or bookkeeping time by 50%. You can't do it with paper. It's
impossible. It's just impossible.
Impossible. You can do it by implementing an AI-based technology tool. Right?
True.
So when we're talking about moving faster and faster and becoming more efficient, the only way is technology and using the latest tools that are out there, including, we just spoke about AI.
True.
Now AI is helping us make informed decisions. Right? If you think about it from an accounting perspective, whether a journal entry should be an office expense or whether it should be utilities, AI is there helping us make that decision, so we don't have to think about it.
Interesting.
And what is it doing based off of? It is doing based off of the learning from the past. If people have put in that ComEd bill is utilities, the computer systems have learned that after so many
years.
Examples, right?
Yeah.
So the next example with almost 99% accuracy is going to put it in as, utilities.
No, true,
right?
True.
So I'm giving you this very concrete example, and it is also true for that small business, the corner grocery shop, right? To a large business,
still,
it's AI still applies.
So
technology still applies.
So the way I see is that, again, I'll just give you one more prime example, which just happened this week. What we just learned is that, we are very much active on this platform, TikTok, and recently what they did is that they completely, I would say not shelved, but at some capacity, can basically I would say disconnected their ads thing and completely made that whole module into the AI. So now AI will pick up your data, whatever content you are generating on your platform, whatever your affiliates and whatever influencers are generating those content. Based on the learning of the content, it will automatically basically adjust your ad spend. And it assures you that you know what, you will get this 16%, like 16 arrows out there. So you don't have to, even the moment it goes, and it guarantees you in such a manner that our AI is so powerful that will pick up appropriate spending and the content that you will never ever go below the 16 out there. So for us as well, like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Like, I don't need to have like a 5 people of individuals who kind of basically creating campaigns and doing all the different ads and stuff like that. That's good for me, right, for our company. But on the flip side, let's see, there are hundreds of agencies who were established just to provide the ads. So now all of a sudden their business just went off. So it's like, I mean, then what do they, because they made their team, they trained their team, okay, let's provide the service and all that stuff, all their cool stuff are going on, and overnight they're like, okay, well, now what did TikTok do?
Well, you say overnight it went through. I don't agree with that.
Okay.
The reason why I don't agree with that is because, if you were keeping a pulse on what is happening with technology, you would have known that day is coming.
Yeah.
Look,
you could argue that.
Anything that you can automate and at some level make a decision on, right, is going to get replaced by AI. Any routine work.
True. No, my thing was that this was something, the ads thing, it requires a lot of, I would say, lots of decision making in the process.
All of that is being made by that AI engine.
And that just kind of like, okay, it's not, okay, you have to think, okay, this is the campaign you want to run. This is how much, of, PPC budget you want to basically allot to this specific aspect over there. And, you want to put a threshold over here. And it requires a lot of involvement out there.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden, like, okay, everything is done by machine.
But think about what is happening.
I'm like, whoa, this is, and we tested out, and to my surprise, the results were great.
Yeah.
I mean, they said 16, they hit for 20, they hit for 24. In fact, they hit more than what they basically promised for. I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
For us, I mean, I don't mind having this kind of stuff over here, but again, you see, right, there are two spectrum of, one side, okay, it's going good, but on the other side, there is always a fear. Yeah, you're
going to lose a job, right?
You're going to lose a job.
Look, here's, I'll give you another example, right? So AI in call center space, right? AI in call center space, a lot of people are very, very nervous because a lot of people will be displaced. Right? Your traditional phone call that comes in inbound or outbound, right, can be handled by AI. But what are some of the countries like Thailand and Philippines? What are they doing? Their government is actually upskilling their own people so that before they get disrupted, they have an alternate. So all of a sudden, it's not one of those, as you kind of said, overnight, it'll disappear.
Okay.
They're proactively, they're envisioning that these people will be displaced. It may take 2 years, 3 years. So proactively, they're upskilling those people for alternate higher value jobs. Right? And that's evolution.
It is.
Modern day evolution, right?
True.
And so I would say one thing that I can leave you here with today, for sure, is a lot of what we fear about is evolution. Now, if we have a foresight into what is about to happen, then we have nothing to fear about. In fact, we can use that as opportunities to see what do we need to do next. So to give you an example, I'm sure those people that are getting trained by the government in Philippines, right, are already saying, okay, I'm making $3 an hour doing these phone calls, which will get replaced. I'm going to get training, and I'm seeing this as an opportunity, not a threat, an opportunity to now make $6 an hour.
But they have to keep on basically pursuing that, right? That's a part of the package here.
Yeah.
They cannot be just content of the fact, okay, whatever they're doing there, it's fine. We just have to keep on.
Yeah, it's learning. In my opinion, it's all about learning. And we learn from the moment we are born to the moment we die. In fact, I say this a lot of times, our last learning is actually how we die. We don't know how we're going to actually die until we
Until
actually
we
die. So that's
die.
actually a learning too.
That's scary.
Hey,
I don't want to get into that.
but you see
It's
my point. It's like a lot of people will say, "Hey, I'm contented here. I'm happy with what I have," right? And
Mhm.
they're fooling themselves because they're learning,
Hmm.
even when they don't realize it. When you're seeing something, right?
Mhm.
It's a new learning.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true. Well, I guess that's very interesting topic of discussion here. I think I will a little bit kind of want to now divert into a different discussion over here. Is that so? Now we talked about technology, what kind of impact it can have. AI is coming into the equation, stuff like that. So now let's discuss about the human side of the game here. So being especially being we people being from the east, and coming over here. So I would just like to understand from your side, what are some of the challenges you have experienced, and how did you kind of overcome, just because you are from east.
I don't think it's east or west as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's whenever there is some sort of a migration.
Mm-hmm.
There are some sort of challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
First is, kind of getting acclimated to the culture.
Hmm.
And it'd be the same thing, Abdul, if, somebody from United States went to Pakistan, right? There's a whole lot of cultural differences,
That
right?
is.
So that is the first challenge, I
Mm-hmm.
would say, that we as immigrants,
Hmm.
global immigrants face. We have to understand each other better. Because
When you say each other, are you just limiting itself with everybody, or just the people from east itself?
from both sides,
On both sides.
east
Okay.
and west. So
Okay.
if you're saying that we're coming from east, right? We as Easterners, or
Mm-hmm.
even that's a word, um, we need to understand that things will be different. The culture is different,
Hmm.
right? And then for the folks that are here,
Hmm.
they have to understand that immigration will happen,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right? And there will be some cross cultural things that will come because of the immigration.
True.
If you look at, once again, I'm going to go back to our human evolution,
Mm-hmm.
we have migrated throughout the world.
True.
And as we kind of know, going with the theory that's out there right now, human life started somewhere in Africa, right? And we've spread all over the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
immigration,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And so we just have to now know that we will have differences. We have to accept that, right? We have to accept the fact that we can't enforce our own cultural upbringing, our own view of how we see the world, right? Because that's where conflicts
No,
happen.
no. This is exactly where I wanted to kind of divert the conversation here, because look, we come up with a certain belief, certain thought process over here, right? And when we come here, this part of the world over here, right? So we try to be like them. I think the majority of the time we spend, well, okay, we should be like them, the way we communicate, the understand the thought process behind it, so like that. So I'm just trying to understand over here is that the beliefs and thought process what we have does not have any stance or value, or
It does. So, there is uniqueness, right?
Mhm.
And we have to accept the uniqueness
Mhm.
that every group of people have,
Mhm.
right? I think it's when we force
Mhm.
our belief system, right, onto others,
Mhm.
that's where we have an issue. And so, if the society today
Mhm.
accepted that, hey, we're going to have these type of different belief systems, there is no way we can have one unified belief system.
That will never be the case.
Never
Yeah,
be the
never
case,
be the
right?
case.
And so,
Mm.
we just have to accept that. And then, as once again evolution happens,
Mhm.
things will change. I think one of the things is, people want to preserve their culture.
Hmm.
They will say, oh, I'm coming from the East, I want a better life, but I still want that culture that I had in the East.
Exactly, and that's where I think my thought process is.
I'm like, my thinking is, why, right? Why do you want to enforce that, right? Um,
No, it's just
even when
it's just your DNA in the sense like, okay, you
but you know
eat a
that,
certain way, you look like a certain way, you perceive things in a certain manner. You cannot change that. I mean, however, you can be fluent with your communication, but yet you cannot change some of the basic things which you have been grown up in that way, isn't it?
but you're still growing up,
You can argue. Yeah.
right? And you are still adapting to some of the changes here. Now, I'll give you an example, right? We come from the East, where you know how we drive over there. There are no rules of the road. But we come to United States of America, and then we adapt, right? So we changed our culture. Driving culture
Mm-hmm.
in Pakistan is no rules of the road.
True.
That's
True.
accepted there, right?
Yes.
It is now accepted there. No one's going to argue, hey, why is somebody driving in the middle of the lane?
That's acceptable.
It's acceptable.
Yeah.
But it's not acceptable here in the United States. But
Yeah.
we adapt,
True. True.
right? And this is a subtle example of how we adapt. Culture is not just race, religion. It's how we live, how we live our life, and how people live their lives in the East, as you say, right, is different than how people live their lives in the United States. And we can't accept that when you migrate to United States, that you bring that exact same culture. Even when you and I speak,
Right.
I could tell you that there are probably, when you say you want to preserve the culture, you yourself have probably let go of some parts of that culture.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
It's just that we don't think of it that way.
I mean, I think that's more kind of an in-depth conversation also, because I mean, and as you mentioned, right, culture is not, it's just like completely how you live your life. It's just not basically associated with the religion or with the lifestyle. It's like completely your lifestyle, complete aspect over there. So I guess, yes, there's a lot of conversation, but again, the part being that, we are from there, and there's amazing some values, which we bring, which we really cherish, and which we like, okay, which has a lot of I would say value associated to it. So my only thing is, okay, we should be preserving it, and we should be basically making it even more apparent to the people of West. Things which are really kind of, the lot of, again, we can go more into philosophical discussion about that, but I guess, but yeah, that's one perspective over there. But shifting the gears about that, so now we talked about different things. I think the last thing what I want to kind of discuss over here is that, since you have a very, as I mentioned in the beginning also, that you have kind of, interacted with thousands of people around the world, because you have, again, when you were in the pursuit of your, in your whole career out there, you have traveled everywhere, I would say pretty much everywhere, Europe, and like you name the world, you have been there out there. What would you say that, okay, what's the best place, being the fact that, okay, we come from a certain so we come from East, and we have a certain way of living and stuff like that, and what do we say the best place you can live your life?
There is no one best place.
Why
I'll tell
is
you
that
that.
so?
Yeah, there's no one best place. I thought
Uh-huh.
that there would be, right? I would say maybe about 15 years ago or so. I really liked Heidelberg, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
The mountains,
Really?
and how that city is within a valley, very beautiful. The culture, the people, very nice, right? And I thought that I would retire there. I actually
Okay.
thought that I would
You
actually
liked it
go.
so much.
I liked it so much, right? Now, in the last, I would say 10, 17 years or so, I think I've had awareness that there is no one place in the world
Hmm.
that you could say, oh, it's the perfect place.
Hmm.
Okay. Part of me,
And the rational?
right, and the rationale here, part of me, a big portion of me, my personality, is all about giving back.
Hmm.
And I can't give back in Heidelberg. So I can't live.
You'll be having a good time though.
Well, I could go visit and relax and chill, right? But I still can't live over there, because a good portion of my life, which is to give back to underserved communities would not happen there,
Hmm.
right? And so, if today you were to ask me, what is that one place, Feroz? I would say, yeah, maybe Jamaica,
Hmm.
right?
Very
But
interesting.
I think, a lot of different factors come into play, right? My health. If I think about health for a second, I'd say I'm in the perfect place right now here in Chicago. The best place to be for any kind of healthcare.
True.
It's very robust.
Hmm.
Some state of the art technologies
Hmm.
are here in Chicago.
Hmm.
So how could I say I need to be in Jamaica because I still need to live, right? So right here I told you about three different places, um, and I'm pretty sure if I think through, I'll find some
There'll be a lot
other
more. Yeah.
places as well in the world that I could think of, right? From a religious perspective, yeah, I'd love to be in Saudi Arabia, right? Closer to Mecca. But religion is a big part, but it's not the only part.
It's on. True, true. It's very interesting, how a person, like, you have been through the different phase of life. Like I have been, it's individual, like how they go through different phase of life, and based on that, they come up with some kind of a conclusion, I would say. Okay, this is what it is, and that's, I think that's the beauty of the human, right? Even if you are brothers and brothers, right, they go to different phase completely. Their perspective of looking at the life, viewing how things are, it's completely different. So I think one thing what I wanted to just kind of end this conversation about is that, since we have this, and you want to say something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Abdul, I want one thing that I want to just share before you close on it, right?
Uh-huh.
I started off saying that I'm a global citizen, right?
Yes,
And you
yes,
asked me what is that one place, right?
yes.
And I just told
Mm.
you once again that the entire world
It's
is my place.
mhm. Okay.
I don't want to be in the moon or Mars or somewhere else, right? I want to be here
I think
on
that's. I
Earth,
think it's a good thing you reminded that. Yes, a global city. Yes.
and I don't think of boundaries, right?
Hmm.
So that one place is this planet Earth.
Hmm. Oh, that's too
And
broad.
just like I would be in Chicago and say, hey, there are advantages to living on the north side versus suburbs or downtown. The world is no different. There's advantages to being in Saudi Arabia or being in Jamaica or Heidelberg or Chicago,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just see the whole world from a slightly different but broader perspective.
Perspective.
But that's all I wanted to share.
No, interesting. That's an interesting thing. So I think as we kind of end right now, so I just wanted to, just based on your experience and things like that. So there is always, something. What kind of message, I would say, or a piece of advice you would like to give, basically, for the new entrepreneurs out there who are kind of trying to basically embark, or the students out there who have just basically they want to do something, make a change, or excel in their career out there. So any specific piece of advice would you like to give to those individuals out there?
Look, what I would say is there are lots of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
You have to sometimes seek and sometimes create those opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's in a workplace, in a 9 to 5 job,
Mm-hmm.
right, or business. But one thing that I would leave everyone with today is we got to make corporate social responsibility
Hmm.
our core,
Hmm.
because that is what is going to give us, the human race,
Hmm.
an advantage over some other species that are out there. We gotta care for our
Interesting.
own species.
Right. Right.
We
Right.
can care for dogs and cats, right? But if we find that there's people, kids, who don't have food to eat, well, the cats and dogs are never going to provide for humans, but yet we provide
Hmm.
for those cats and dogs. And nothing against animal lovers. I'm
Hmm.
just saying that we got to take care of our own species first. And while Fortune 100 or 500 companies really drive corporate social responsibility, I think every single business should have some sense of that responsibility.
Interesting. Very nice. Yeah. No, true, true. So I think this is some a lot of things to learn from your side, because the depth of in-depth experience you have, and I think this is I would be, we will not be able to do justice in this kind of short session here. Definitely, we'll kind of, expand more session down the road also with this thing, so we can basically take advantage of your amazing experience, what you have had, from around the world, actually, diving into technology, learning about humans and stuff like that. So thank you, Mr. Feroz, for being in the show. And as always, we have always amazing guests, and we look forward for having more interesting guests. Stay tuned. Intense show.